joining us later. So Saturday, February the 2nd, Groundhog Day. Everyone knows what that is. Have you seen the movie Groundhog Day? It's about that man who wakes up over and over in the same day. So that's today. And apparently the Punxsutawney Phil, the groundhog, prognosticator of prognosticators, and whatever they call him, woke up today and didn't see his shadow, which means that at least here in the United States, we'll have an early spring. So, and it's actually kind of warm today here. So it's like 17 plus Celsius, like in the 60s in Fahrenheit. So it seems like we will have an early spring this year. So I see Kim is here, and let me make a few quick announcements just so you know, a few quick updates, and then I'll turn over to Kim if she has anything else to say. But briefly, we have about 1,500 students in the early track universities, so about 20 countries. They started, that's their second week now. So this week they're selecting the companies, and we have about 8 companies that they can choose from. So they are, so the teams were formed 2 weeks ago, and we still keep adding some people to teams, mainly because some semester, or in some countries, the semester starts a little late, and then also some people just were a little late to take the test. So we will be adding people to teams for a few more days. Now, first week, all they had to do is just establish contact. Second week, they're selecting the company. But then next week, they will start working on the questions. And so that's when I expect that they will start asking questions, as well as probably will start having some tensions and conflicts. So for the head coaches, we will be asking them to help us with those cases while you, the regular coaches, are in training. So they will be handling those cases if there are any requests for help, feedback, conflict resolution, or anything of that kind. We will also use them to sort of test drive our request processing system. So we have a system in place where when the request comes in, the case is assigned to a couple of coaches. Everything is recorded in the system. And so we already started getting those requests. And so we'll use head coaches to help us with those cases, but as I said, also develop and make sure that the system is working. Meanwhile, you, the coaches, will be going through the theoretical training, and so you already completed one first round last week, right? And you'll have the next one due today. And so here, as I said before, you have, we have 2 purposes for those tests. One, first and foremost, we want to make sure that the coaches are fully prepared before they start coaching teams. Obviously, not only you're going through training and gaining some skills for yourselves, but you also represent the X culture, you know, the organization. And if a coach is not prepared or doesn't know how to sort of, you know, coach, it creates a negative impression on the organization in general, or it creates a negative impression about the organization in general. So we cannot afford to empower or entrust people who are not adequately prepared to represent the organization. So we want to make sure that you do know how the project works. You do know how to respond to a request, or provide feedback, or resolve the conflict. So obviously all of this will be part of the training. But also equally importantly, managing such a large group of coaches is challenging. And so if people are not taking it seriously, if people, for example, you know, are assigned a case but do not handle it right away, or if people are asked to provide feedback and do not do that right away, that's a problem both of image but also of coordination. And it is in our interest to have rather a smaller group of properly prepared and diligent and responsible and dedicated coaches than to have a large group of people who perhaps, you know, some of them are not quite as diligent, dedicated, and responsible. And so the 4 weeks of theoretical training is not, or are not only about training, but also about selection. So if through this process, either you discover that maybe it's too much work, or maybe you cannot keep up with the schedule, or we see that, you know, for whatever reason, the person is, you know, disappearing from time to time, obviously we will not promote the person to the practical phase. And again, it's nothing personal, no hard feelings, you know, it's just basically a test drive. If it works for you, great, and we are happy But if it doesn't, I guess it's in everybody's interest not to force you, and expect something that you cannot deliver. So therefore, yes, this week 2, you have the second test. You should have received your test link. I think it was on Wednesday, and you obviously had the materials also for a while now. And so yeah, just click on that link, complete the test, and we will review the results as always on Monday. We will release the next batch of materials as always on Monday, and yeah, you will have until next Sunday to complete the next test. That's basically where we stand. Oh, and one more update. So the Xculture Kids, that's another track that is in progress now. So likewise, they have 4 weeks of training. They will have 1 week of break between the practical and the theoretical phase. And so this week they're completing the first test for them, and then they'll have a little time to take a break. And so we have about 1,000 people whom we accepted. They come from 78 countries as of now. And so for them, likewise, they are going through training to make sure that they're prepared, but also as a selection tool. And I looked at the demographics. Most of them are kind of older teens. So most of them are 15, 16, 17 years old. So most of them will be graduating from high school in a year or 2. And they use Xculture as a way to improve their resume and increase their chances of maybe getting a scholarship or getting into a good college. So most actually seem to be quite diligent and serious. I was very surprised. I thought that quite a few of them will be slackers, but so far the vast majority look very, very good. And one of the things we asked them to do, for example, was to prepare, just like what you did, a short video where they introduce themselves, and I watched quite a few of those. Amazing, amazing. I mean, like, interesting young people. Everybody looks a little different, different countries, different kind of backgrounds in those videos, different accents, but all seem to be very motivated, very dedicated. So let's see how many of them will survive. They will be going through the same process, same teamwork, same workflow. And so likewise, they will need probably coaching as much as everybody else. So we'll try to see, I'll leave it up to you guys to decide with Kim, if you want to be assigned specifically to the kids teams and work only with the younger participants, especially if you see your career as an educator, perhaps it may be a good beneficial opportunity for you to work with the younger teams. Or we may mix up a little bit. So maybe some cases that you'll get with requests for help will be from the kind of regular students, older people, but maybe once in a while you will be asked to assign or to assist a younger team. So I have no preference how it's handled, and if someone has a preference to work with kids specifically, maybe we can assign you to kids specifically. But if you are indifferent, maybe we'll have a mix here. But I assume that they will have the same types of questions, just may require perhaps a little bit more hand-holding. I mean, some of those, especially younger kids, don't have much experience, and so they may need to, receive a little bit more guidance. But yeah, that's basically where we stand. So I guess, Kim, do you have any comments? Do you want to provide any updates of your own, anything here? And I see Karen Linden is here as well, one of our professors who's helping a lot with the administrative side. So.
Hi, Boz. Yeah, sure. I will be happy to provide. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'll be happy to talk for about 5 minutes. I'm so excited to see you guys all again. I have some repeat people coming into the coaching program, and I think it's going to be better this year. Like, just every year it gets so much better, and more than what we thought we could do. And so I just wanted to give a heads up that we do need people. Before you get really involved, we want you to really consider your time availability, because you do have to make a weekly commitment to do work. You can't put off, grading reports and stuff like that. So because things are time sensitive, we just want to make sure that you know that there is a time commitment. And so we have had people in the past probably just stop showing up, and they become uncontactable. So that's kind of, we just want to be sure that that's transparent, that there is a slight time commitment. It's not much, but just keeping, if you're a team player, then this is definitely the program for you, and we can certainly make you a team player. And overall, it is going to be what you make it. So we've had people submit great reports in the past, or portfolios, and they are just repeat stars every semester. So I've loved seeing everybody grow, and I'm so happy to see such a big cohort this year of coaches. And I would love to do any training possible. If you guys are ever seeking mentorship, just let me know. I'll let you know my journey through X Culture, and I'm so happy to share anything you guys are wanting to. And also, we'll be having weekly webinars. I know that a lot of people wanted the weekly webinars back, and so in the past we've had issues with attendance, but I'm willing to make more webinars to make it available for everybody, so that not everybody's just watching a recording. And so I just want to make sure that I'm giving you guys the tools to succeed. And so just if you have any questions or advice, feel free to reach out to me, okay? And so that's basically what I wanted to say.
Kim touched upon something very important, and I would like to share some recent experience with providing recommendation letters to coaches. So many of you, or at least in the past, many coaches would provide me as a reference when they apply for jobs. And so in some cases, it only means that I have to write a letter, but in most cases, I would actually get a phone call from the HR department, or sometimes it's even an external company that sort of does employment verification and then wants to actually hear from me some comments on the coaches. And so I've done dozens of those, literally dozens of those phone calls over the years. And so one thing that comes up all the time is actually something that I didn't expect when we started this program. I thought that the employers will be primarily interested in your skills. I thought that I will be primarily talking about you, oh, they mentored and worked with cross-cultural teams and kind of sort of have an understanding of cultural differences. They organized webinars, and so they know how to use webinar software like Zoom or like Microsoft Teams or whatever else. And so they will be able, they will know how to use the technology. Or that they develop training materials, text-based or video lectures. And I can say that, yes, they have, prepared those materials. You can look at their portfolio. If the time comes for them to do something like that for your organization, they will know how to approach it. Things like that. So teamwork, as I said, training skills, conflict resolution, and things like that. But what's interesting, there is one question that comes up much, much more frequently. So every employer always asks that question. Do you know what that question might be? Like every single time, there is a question that they seem to be much more interested in than your skills. Anyone knows what that might be? Like first time I was always a little confused, but now I have gotten used to it. They always ask about sort of showing up, I guess if I have to use a specific word, or basically being reliable and responsible. So they always say, was this person always on time? Was this person always doing, what the person is supposed to do? So essentially, was this person at work at the time when the person is supposed to be at work? And even though in our case, we don't really have a job from 8 till 5, but they seem to be interested in, being a responsible player. And I can actually understand why that is, because, in X Culture, again, we have some employees, so we have several people on the payroll. And then obviously we have a lot of professors who also provide some help and training, and support. And we have few coaches and so on. And it's very hard to find people who are, responsible, who are, if something happens to you, the work will still be done. So when the employers ask for a reference letter, in many cases, they don't really care that even much about how many languages you speak or, if you can organize a webinar, even though that's a big plus. For them, it's much more, but did this person do the job, as requested? And so apparently many people don't, and that's a big red flag. And at the same time with you, we will keep track of all the things that you do, including, for example, so did you address that case on time? Did you deliver the webinar within the time frame that you were allocated? Did you have a nice and neat portfolio? And so it may not be so much about the quality of the webinar. It may not be so much about the quality of the conflict resolution that you provided, but just the case that once you were assigned the case, you started working on that. And so in the end, when we will be giving you the recommendation letters, we'll definitely comment on that. And believe me, that sentence in the end, that I can confidently say that this person, when assigned a task or entrusted with a project, will do it. I think that may even matter more than when we say, oh, he knows how to organize a webinar, how to deal with the cross-cultural conflict. It's a big, big deal. So, and along those same lines, I would like to tell you another story. I think I have it somewhere, either on Facebook or I don't know, somewhere else, but it's very true. And I didn't think about it in those ways before, but now that I have to, to manage a team myself, I actually see that as a big, big challenge, but also as a big sort of well, when you will become managers, you'll understand. But now let me tell it to you from the point of view of being a manager, and hopefully you will understand better as, in this case, I guess, ex-culture coaches and employees. So this story goes like this. So there was this farmer who had some land and had some, I don't know, cattle and, some fields with, hay and with, wheat and so on. And so he had two men working for him as, workers. So let's call one of them John, and let's call the other one of them Elias, right? And so one morning, John comes to his master, to his employer, and says, farmer, I've been working for you for a few years, and I noticed that my pay is lower than that of Elias. So I work 8 hours a day just like Elias does, and I've been working for you for a few years just like Elias has, and yet you pay Elias twice as much as you pay me. Can I get a pay raise? And so the farmer looks at John and says, sure, yeah, let's talk about that, but I'm looking through the window and I see some sort of commotion, something's happening there. Can you go and check what's going on there? Maybe it's our neighbor, Farmer Bob, carrying his hay. And so if so, maybe we can buy some hay for our, horses. And so John goes out of the door, and 5 minutes later he comes back and says, yes, farmer, it was Farmer Bob, and yes, he's carrying hay, and you were right. And then the farmer says, hey, John, can you go and talk to Bob again and check if he might be interested in selling that hay to us? Because we need to buy some hay for our horses, so maybe we'll buy from him. So John goes out, comes back in 5 minutes and says, yeah, I spoke to Farmer Bob, and Farmer Bob said that, yes, he would be happy to sell the hay for us. And the farmer says, oh, that's wonderful. So can you go and check with him if this is hay from sweet meadows or from soggy, swamps? Because our horses like the hay, the grass from sweet meadows, and last time we bought the grass from soggy swamps and they didn't like it very much. So John walks out of the door again, goes, talks to Bob, and then comes back 5 minutes later and says, yes, this hay is from sweet meadows. That's the type that our horses like. And then farmer says, hey, John, can you go and then check how much he wants for that hay? And so John walks out and comes back again in 5 minutes and says, Bob said that he would sell it to us for $100. At this moment, Elias walks in, so the other worker, and says, hey, master, I was working outside and I saw Farmer Bob carrying some hay. So I checked with him if he would be willing to sell it to us, and he said yes. And so he said it's the type that our horses like, from Sweet Meadows, and he said he would sell us for $100. I said maybe he would accept $50 plus some of our corn that we have, and he agreed. So I already made arrangements, and our workers are unloading the hay and loading the corn, so all good. I just wanted to let you know that you know. And then the farmer looks at John and says, now do you understand why I'm paying twice as much to Elias than I'm paying to you? And so the story here is that it's not only about showing up that counts. In most cases, it's also taking the initiative. It's easy to find people who can do what you tell them to do. Like you tell them, okay, start digging a trench from here and until there. And so many people can do that. So, but those are not very valuable employees because, if you have to hold their hand and explain them what needs to be done every step of the way, you spend a lot of energy. The most valuable employees are the ones, or partners, or, who sort of take the initiative. And so they don't have to be told every step of the way what needs to be done. So if they see a problem or if they see an opportunity, they go and do it. And then they just keep you informed about, the progress. And so here I'm sort of, on the one hand, I'm requesting for your help, and I'm requesting you to be more like Elias. Like if you see a problem with webinars or with training modules or with the way we handle, whatever issue we handle, please don't wait and maybe not even complain, but take the initiative. Think about how it can be resolved, and maybe either check with Kim, for example, or me if that's a good way, or maybe even go ahead and fix it if you know how, and then just let us know. But also at the same time, if you do that, again, that's something that we will definitely make sure to share with your future employers. And again, I bet if we can tell that, this person, there was a situation like this, and that was the task, and the person took this action and got this result. So if we can say that, I think the future employers will value that even more. And by the way, so that's the way we do the recommendations. We always follow this STAR model. So we don't just say, for example, I don't know, I see here Danish, for example. I wouldn't just say that Danish is a good man. I would actually follow the STAR model. So S, star, situation, T, task, A, action, R, result. I'll say that, for example, we had a situation here where, for example, something didn't work, or a team was in trouble. And so the task was to resolve this issue and nobody was available. And then Danish, for example, or Alexandra took this action. So reached out to the team, collected more information, figured out what to do. And in the result, our result got this wonderful, outcome where the team was happy, where the conflict was resolved, or the webinar was organized and things like that. And so I cannot overstate how much more important it is to actually, show up and do the job than to be smart and creative. We tend to celebrate people who we believe are very creative, like Steve Jobs, I don't know, whoever else is now, the big guru that we like, for example, Elon Musk and so on. But talk to anyone who tried to run a business and everybody will say that execution, so actually doing the thing and completing the task, is much, much more important than being smart or creative. There are thousands and millions of people who are extremely creative. And so at best, many of them end up with a 8-to-5 job. So only people who can actually execute the task, so who can complete the task, those are the people who can, who see the great results. In fact, Steve Jobs, for that matter, I don't think he invented any of the products that Apple did, but he was very good at executing, at completing the projects. And I think that's what actually made him different. So so just hopefully that's inspirational or at least educational what I just said, but I guess, at least to me, it matters more than just being smart and creative or speaking many languages or having much knowledge. So does that make sense? I don't know. Did that sound too boring? So I just wanted to share with you that stuff.
No, Vas, it was great.
Yeah. Anyway, so sorry, let me shut up here. Any comments, any questions, any observations, anything else that you guys want to discuss?
What I noticed when somebody is new to an organization, they're going to need more hand-holding. But after a while, once you get used to it and you have more experience, then it's easier to get things done by yourself.
Right. Well, with you guys, coaches, as I said, we'd like to see you more as partners. I mean, as you can see, XCulture often is a little disorganized. We're still experimenting with things. We still don't know how to do things the best way. We are always under-resourced. We don't have a big budget. And so we cannot really hire people full-time to work for us other than some essential functions like IT and stuff. And so many things can and will go wrong. And so we sort of expect you to see not so much as, as clients where we have to provide you with a great experience, but rather as partners in this enterprise. So people who will tell us, at the very least, tell us if you see a problem, better yet, volunteer to fix it, better yet, go ahead and fix it or, make it better, and then we'll help you with that. So therefore, yes, if you see something, try to do something about it because you're not a student anymore. So with students, yes, they are more like customers. You, as I said, we'd like to see you as partners. So talking about that, by the way, one more thing I forgot. So we do have your photos and bios now. And so with the head coaches, whom we have known for a while, we will go ahead and update their profile pages right away. So when you go to XCulture's website and you click on, I think the team is the link, you will see, the executive board and stuff like that, but also coaches, head coaches right there. With the coaches, so we will wait until you pass the theory training. And then on that day, we will place everything on the web so that the students can find your bio and profile and photo. And so this way, and that's at the time when we will issue you the XCulture email addresses. So this way you can start communicating with the students using that email address. We may do it a little bit in advance just so that it's not, delayed. So I guess once we have 2 or 3 sets of your tests, it's probably a good idea. We'll probably have a good idea who's going to pass and who's not. But yes, if you're worried why it's not on the online yet, is because we want to make sure that we update and post the profile pages only of those who will actually be in the practical phase. And in my experience, most of you will pass. There will be some people who will drop out, but I don't have any problems. And I mean, I don't have any concerns, and I'm sure those who try, they will have no difficulties advancing to the next level. All right, any other questions, comments? Okay, well, the only thing that I would like to do before we go, quick introductions. As I said, I know some of these people, but it's very important to get to know people also as people, not just as two words on the screen. So I met Carlos. He has attended a few webinars, and he actually was very active, participated very actively in the one, for example, we did yesterday. Kimberly and Karen, do you want to introduce yourselves? I think you already did before, but I'm not sure if everyone was there before. Just, you know, a couple of words where you are, what you do, so that they know, and then maybe we'll ask the rest of the people to do.
Hi, yes, this is Karen, and I'm a lecturer at UNCG. The coaching program is such a unique opportunity, I think, for anyone to experience a startup type of environment or a small company, and I'm excited for all of you. Seeing some of you on screen today, I think whenever you can join live, what a great opportunity to be part of this small community, and you're all doing this professional development together. So it's a really unique opportunity, and I wish you all the best. I know I met Kimberly for the very first time in Italy at the X Culture Symposium, and so it was incredible to meet her, to be able to work with her and see her in action, and leading students from all over the world. So I wish you all the best. And if you have any questions, you can always email me as well.
Karen, I never knew, so where are you originally from? Are you a North Carolinian? I know that you're from the United States, obviously, but what state are you? Are you local, or you came here from some different state?
I was I grew up in New York, and I came to North Carolina for college. And so I've stayed here in North Carolina.
I didn't know that. And so Karen lives in a very unique place. So she basically lives on the, well, I guess Kim does too, but right on the ocean. So even though she works here in Greensboro, which is a few hours away from the coast, but Karen lives in Southport, right?
Yes, Southport, North Carolina.
Here, but so yeah, like the photos she posts, like her sunrises are not like my sunrises.
And that's a really unique thing to talk about too, is that your career can take you in so many different directions, and you might find some, maybe work arrangements that are different than what you would consider a traditional arrangement, and you can really find the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Many jobs can be done from from the beach in Southport. So one thing that I would also add to Karen, that she probably has, as far as work ethics goes, I don't think if I know anyone else who is this good a colleague. I mean, Karen has handled so many different things for us, from conference submissions to research to X-Culture help. When you work with Karen, things just magically happen. So you just get an email in the end that says it's done. So, and in many cases it's the opposite. I know, like with me, I tend to disappear, for a long time, sometimes, being busy with other things. So Karen is probably the most reliable person I know, definitely in the X-Culture professor team. And I don't think there was a semester when Karen didn't get the best professor award. So somehow her students always do extremely well. Not to mention that she would, do her report evaluations, not only on time, but like 3 times as many as everybody else and things like that. So again, a rare quality, because we have to chase some professors then for weeks, to get all the things from them that they were promised, that they promised to deliver. So big deal.
Well, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure. So I enjoy it, and I endeavor for everyone that is in the program to enjoy it too, so and get the most out of it.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Kim, so again, most of you know you by now, I assume, but tell us a little bit more about yourself. So I know that you're in California, but I'm sure most people don't know much else.
Yes, so I just moved to California. I started my PhD program finally, and so actually, I've got to say that X-Culture was probably one of the main driving factors to get me into the school of my choice, which is Pepperdine. And so I wrote like this big letter focused on X-Culture and how it made me a very internationally an international educator kind of setup. And so lo and behold, I got my program of choice in international affairs, global leadership at Pepperdine. And so now I'm studying to be one of the great professors like Voss and Karen, who have been so great in providing like me mentorship. And so this program has just been great for me as far as getting my track to becoming a professor like them.
So Kim, where are you then? What state did you grow up in? So,
I grew up in Washington for a long time.
Washington DC or Washington State?
Washington State, yeah,
Ah.
in Spokane, little Spokane,
Ah.
and and then just recently, in the past 2 months, I moved to LA to go to Pepperdine. But before Spokane, I actually was in Italy, so that's where I was raised as a kid.
Oh, so you speak Italian?
Actually, no. Yeah, it's been so long since I left when I was about 9, and so it's been so long that you don't use it, you lose it. So
I didn't know that either. So interesting, very interesting.
yeah.
Well, it's Oregon, Washington, Northern California. So probably the most beautiful places on this planet, depending on what you like. But so I really like that area, that region. So it's kind of nice,
Certainly.
nice nature. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So who else is here? Who's not shy to introduce yourself? At least tell us where you're from. I don't know what your major is. Maybe what's your kind of current employment status. Are you still a student? Are you an employee? So don't be shy. Tell us so we know who you are. Please take initiative. Unmute your microphone. Show us your video. Carlos, let's torture you. I don't know what country you're in, and
Is that me?
yeah. Why not? So we met you, but we don't know where you are. Like I have no idea what country you're in. At this
Well, I was born in the U.S., but I was raised in Mexico when I was a kid.
Okay.
And recently I had to go to Mexico like a year ago because of an emergency. Got really sick, so I had to go back. And well, I'm living currently in the U.S. in California, and the weather is really terrible, to be honest, because I live in San Fernando Valley currently.
Terrible? How too cold, or what is it?
It's freezing. I'm somebody that's used to really hot tropical weather, really nice weather, so I'm not used to the cold.
So don't go to Chicago. They have they said it was like minus.
But I guess I have to get used to it for that's an option.
All right. Well, nice to meet you, Carlos. Who is next? I see Quadvo. I see that your camera is on. Maybe you can introduce yourself. Quadvo, Oten, can you hear us? If you unmute your microphone, go ahead, please.
So I am Kujo Pare from Ghana.
Ghana, okay.
Yeah, and I participated in a S-Coach in 2015 as a student and 2016 as a coach. And this year I'm back as a head coach.
Are you still a student?
No. I completed my undergraduate program in 2017, just last year, last 2 years. So I am working, and I'm also reading a professional course. So.
Very nice. Yeah, I believe I mentioned before, our department chair at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro here, is from Ghana originally. He left Ghana, must have been like 30 years ago, but still, there is a connection there. All right, very nice to meet you. Anyone else is brave enough to introduce yourself? Anyone? Okay, that's fine, yeah. All right, well, so then, yeah, let's stop here, and